microphone, please.
Sorry. Okay.
Oh, American has to take off for Montreal, so running out the door.
The feature tomorrow morning, so thanks for last night.
Thank you. I'm going to probably take this conversation a little slightly different direction because it's been so well, film and television work been quite well covered by our friends here. So I'm going to talk a little about mine, although my background is definitely film and TV, and I probably might recognize some of the faces out here. I've been in business 25 years here. Originally started with Westcon a long time ago, but have been pretty much every other job in the business, so I may recognize some people. But what I want to talk about here is another system that I brought with me. Because I started here and still do. I still work with film and TV work. As the introduction said, I was a pilot. I got my private license probably 12 years ago. I went then on to multi-engine, instrument rating, night rating, and all the other stuff. The only thing I didn't bother because it was commercial. I couldn't really see myself flying 737s at that time in my life. Don't get paid much. But what occurred to me about 3-4 years ago when I started seeing this technology emerge was that it was a perfect filmmaking tool. And it is. It's a transformative technology. Disruptive is a common phrase used right now, but it is a disruptive technology. What you're seeing here will change the way that people get images. There's no doubt about it. There's challenges. It's very new. It's a Model T, as somebody mentioned earlier. But trust me, you will see this technology everywhere. We're very excited about some other applications we've been working on. Forgive me if I just grab a couple of things. I thought I'd show you a video. We're actually today at another conference up at the Airport International Center, and the point of the conference really is industrial applications. And I want to talk to you not just about film and TV, but just to show you a little bit about how the technology will be impacting many other areas of the work, and show you a little bit of what we've been planning with and the system that we're using here. The system that we have looks like a phantom, actually. It doesn't really look any different to what you see. Let's see, change the resolution on me. But, so it doesn't really look much different from this. I mean, really, it looks like a piece of plastic and it looks like something you maybe find at Radio Shack. Unfortunately, nothing could be further from the truth. My pocketbook tells me that. It's actually a military-grade system, commonly used by both Canadian military, U.S. military. I know the Iraqi army have just bought 50 of them. So it's a military spec drone. The OPP use it. Holton Regional have a system made by the same company. It's a very, very different system to probably what you're seeing here, although in principle it works the same way. It's called the Sky Ranger. It's made by Arian Labs. Arian Labs are a company based in Kitchener-Waterloo. Started about 5-6 years ago, I believe. Strictly to focus on quadcopters. They're not interested in doing anything other than quads. They're not doing the big octos or hexas. They have a very specific market, and that's been military and police. That's really been their focus. But what they've found in doing that, of course, is that they've got this machine that can do many, many more things. And so industry and, dare I say, television has shown some interest. Although I've been really pushing TV, it's not really designed for TV. So to make it fit into the quality of this for film production, it's not going to happen. But what it can do is some really remarkable things. And the technology behind it is unique, really. It's actually probably, dare I say, the only legal drone out there. This is the RS-T10 certified. So we actually transmit signals on this encoded, which is a very important aspect when you start to think about certainly security, that the signals that are coming out of this are completely encrypted. So everything that we get is an encrypted signal. Makes sense also when you think about journalism or TV applications, the signals should be encrypted. But to this point, everything coming out of most of the other systems are all analog, which means anybody can tune in. You've got some feeds coming out of the system. That's not necessarily what you really want when if you're doing some kind of work. So the Ariane Sky Ranger is very interesting on many levels. Say, made in Canada, it has the favour of Transport Canada, and by that I mean they allow us to do things with this drone that nobody else can. By that, we can operate pretty much anywhere we like. We have to file no PAMs. We have a blanket certificate across Canada, which means we can operate in any of the 5 regions that Transport cover, right from West Coast, East Coast, but right up to the Arctic. I believe we're the only company that can do it. We're certainly the only company that can operate at night, which we do with the Sky Rangers. One of the biggest applications we have with the Sky Ranger is thermal. The camera payload that we have on right now is a RGB and thermal payload. I can show you a little bit of that right now, because the actual system is live. I'll just plug it in and see it. Plug that. Plug this in here, so I'll give you a bit of a demo. We're doing this all day up at the International Center. Hopefully you'll get a picture. May change the resolution. Okay. So that's you guys in the corner there looking nice and black and white, but that's a thermal image. That's live streaming out of the system right now. So with that, currently we use, of course, thermal imaging for security and for police. Pretty obvious, right? Yep. And you can see yourself. It's all heat. It's not radiometric, by the way. You know the difference between various thermal images. It's not a radiometric image, but it's a white hot black hole situation. It's a FLIR camera. It's a FLIR Quark 640 by 480, which is high for thermal vision. Not high for what we're used to, of course. But on board, it also has a 1080p regular high definition video camera as well. There's a couple of different hot swappable payloads with this, which we can literally pull payload off and within a second later put on a different kind of payload. So that's what we're getting out of the drone right now. The other interesting fact probably is the drone, it's a 50-minute flight time. So it's quite a lot further than most other systems at this point. It can handle 60-kilometer-an-hour winds, which can make a difference, and it's also weather resistant, should we say. It can fly in rain, which again, a lot of systems not too keen on doing that. So we have a very specific need for this system. The need for this system right now is industrial applications. As I say, it would be a fantastic news delivery service if TV news wanted to pay for it. Trying to get TV news to pay for much nowadays is kind of hard. But it is a perfect TV news delivery system with some exceptions. It's not designed for video, and I would never go out there and say this is the best video system. It isn't. You'll get a much better picture out of the 1000 you'll ever get out of this for production. But for getting in a shot, there's nothing like it. For actually getting up there and getting just a picture. But what we're using it for is, to say, industrial applications. Right now we have 2-3 contracts with various utility companies. For example, we're looking at hydro. I'll give you an example of what we can do with this system. I'm going to unplug this now, so we're afraid I can only put one thing on at a time. The other thing probably about this system is the actual training time on it is very small. It's designed for soldiers running around the fields of Afghanistan. So the actual training time on it is really small, which makes it's very important to us as we actually need to expand our pool quite a lot. Our company's growing very, very fast, and we're across Canada. We're waiting to move into the States. We don't want to spend a lot of money on training, although training has to happen, but in a different way. We don't want RC pilots because it takes too long. We need to have people who can basically learn the system in about 2-3 hours and have it functioning. One thing that Ariane really did focus on that was the user friendliness, and their interface is very, very simple. It's a map-based point system. Point you click, you go. I can tell you, with having flown all the systems, I get so much more work done with the Ariane for certain applications than I ever did with anything else. It just simply it's very effective. It's also very expensive, but what I can show you is something that we are working on with the utilities. And it's just, again, this is a simple demo of something we are doing with hydro. If I can get to work. So what you're seeing here is a model we created through using the Sky Ranger to create a three-dimensional picture from two-dimensional images. So you may be familiar with this. This is essentially an open mosaic. Then sending it through software, we can create a depth map from 1,000 overlapped images. This one, we're actually doing specific measurements for plant enclosures around hydro lines. We're also showing that we can also measure the actual line sag. They're very excited about this. People get excited for this kind of things. Not through me, but it's like people who this matters to a lot. But essentially, this is I'd like to put your head in as far as media, as this as a new media application. I've tried to explain to TV and film people, it's like, you've got to take yourself out of the flat image. And imagine now if people go to your website to read news or to see what's going on, you go into Google Earth, we can give you a three-dimensional image of the scene that's just happened, that you can actually fly around. But as simple as that. It takes about, a flight like that would probably take us about 25 minutes gridding, and then we can have it on the website within about 2 hours. So we go beyond just the idea of a flat plane, flat image. We're into three-dimensional. Analytics is part of what we're doing because we offer a kind of end-to-end software solution. It's not just the acquisition. We go into a complete analysis of all the data we gather, send it out there, so we can sort of see terrain, we can work with measurements. And these are all to about 2-3 centimeter accuracy, just from that drone. So, the actual, I guess what I'm impressed at OTV is we're in the flat image, and that's where I come from. It's very important, but I think there is some new media applications in this drone technology that people haven't thought of. The utility companies love this. They get crazy with it. So we're pushing this particular drone in a different direction, probably than the film TV work. But we're also finding a lot of interest on it. And with 50 minutes flight time, we've got lots of time to sit there, work out our flight paths while it's up in the air, and then let it go. And at 60 kilometers an hour, which is what it can do, it can do the job pretty fast. So we're not waiting around for that. That's, I guess, a brief introduction. We're doing a lot more stuff. We're doing stuff with industrial roofing. It's a very obvious application. We're working with a large company called Trimco. We're working with their parent company, RPM, in the US, who are desperate to get us into the US market as soon as the FAA opened up. I think it's mentioned presently that you can't fly drones for commercial reasons in the US. But here we can. And the film, TV, actually probably in the US will be the first place to open up. Lobbyists for film television work in the US are working really hard to open up the market there. It's the obvious application. So here, yeah, absolutely, we fly film, TV. We can still do that work, but we're finding drones go beyond that. But I do think what we're learning with doing this work should apply to new media applications on websites. And yet I haven't had much interest, to be honest with you, from the news. But I tried to go and say, look, we've got this great new technology, why don't you get it on Google Earth? There's been a scene, something happening there, we can grid it and have you up a three-dimensional model, point cloud model, very, very quickly. So we're looking at other applications, thermal imaging, of course, cloud one. We were looking at gas leak detection. We're looking at all sorts of sensors that we could put on this particular system and other systems that we're building as well. So that's a nutshell, I guess, of what we do with this particular drone. Anyway, it's been mentioned about drones, and I think the regulations have been fairly well covered. But as I say, I'm a pilot, and like you're saying, I think most transport know that you have that level of experience. They're more open to talk to you. We've been talking to every region of Canada, which is 5 of them. We've had meetings with them all. We've explained our company. My other partner in the company is flies 737 for a day job. Actually doesn't now, just quit and now works full time with industrial Skyworks. And so between the two of us, we've really gone out to be the best leaders in Canada as far as regulation goes. We're actually on the board of transport. We understand where they're going. And where they're going with this is quite interesting. They're going to something we call compliant operators. Right now they have the blanket certification, which we have, but they're going to something called a compliant operator. Compliant operators will be required to have aircraft that are certified. It's going to be another level of complexity that's going to be coming our way. Certified aircraft means serial numbers, testing, all the information that basically a COA will give you right now. So it's going to be an interesting time to head. The area and lab system is certainly going to be one of the certified ones off the bat. They, for their own reasons, I say I don't think it's the best, but it's damn good. But they go through all the hoops. Every piece of lab is serial number. Every piece is tested. Every piece is don't do this and that. That's what Transport Canada want to see. And so as big broadcasters look at what they're going to be flying, they first start off here and they go, well, you know, Joe down at EMG's got one of those. Let's go and grab some shots. Quickly they realize that's going to open them up to liability and insurance issues. And as soon as they start realizing the liability, insurance issues in Transport Canada, this and that, this stays on the shelf. And trust me, I've been to several newsrooms where I've seen these literally encountering dust. And they just, they go, we can't do it. So they start to look at other operators like ourselves to provide services that have the expertise and the pilot training and the pilots who can fly these kind of systems. But down the road, what they want to do, the broadcasters, every network wants to have their own in-house flight operations department. And I'll be honest with you, that's probably what's going to happen. That you will eventually have, as broadcasters, have a flight ops department where you will be able to have Skyranger or something like that, where you'll be able to send that team out to go and cover an event. That team will be specialized and trained, but it will be probably within the broadcaster. So, I mean, I've been talking to the CDC about having training and getting their sort of stuff ready. You know, they're all a bit reticent because it means spending money, and trust me, as you probably know, there's not much money going around the broadcast business these days. But, you know, they know it's coming. They know they have to deal with it. I was in New York a few weeks ago, the TV music conference, where they're chomping at the bit. News organizations are chomping at the bit to have these drones in their arsenal. They just want them, but of course they're not allowed. So they look to Canada and say, well, great, you guys must be using them all the time. And I'm looking at them, no, it's nobody. It's very frustrating, I'll be honest with you. It's like, you know, somebody's got to really get their act together and get this system. We have a unique opportunity to be world leaders in drone application. And Australia are going ahead with it. We have the regulatory approvals to do it, but nobody's doing it. I'll be honest with you. It's quite frustrating from my perspective to see this kind of lax sort of like, oh, we'll get around to it. I know money's tight, but guys, trust me, this is transformative. Once you start seeing the shots, once you start getting news stories, once you start getting live feeds out of these systems, which we can do that right now, you'll be amazed. You'll be wondering, why did we wait so long? So, my soapbox. But, you know, I mean, there's lots of things we're doing. The fees, say, I'm showing some of the industrial applications. There's still a lot of film work to be done, a lot of television work to be done. We're the part of the member of drone journalism. I'm really passionate about getting this technology to journalists' hands. I think it's very important. But it's challenging because, I mean, as Alden's pointed out, here in Canada, you're in a catch-22 when it comes to transmission. You're just in a catch-22. I have a ham radio operator's license. I went and got that. Of course, ham by its nature is an amateur radio license. You're stuck in this little regulatory hole. And unfortunately, the big broadcasters, you know, they run away from those kind of holes. They don't want to be part of it. However, with big broadcasters, you also have broadcast licenses. You have the in-house, you know, expertise to get you know, live signals and high-quality live signals out of these systems. So it's sort of like, you know, there's people here, I'm sure, in this room that can really understand how to move this forward, how to stop this kind of regulatory block. Usually with Industry Canada, Transport have been much more open to this. But Industry Canada block us and go, nah, you can't do this, can't do that. I think Zoltan has really clearly, you know, pointed that out. Very few systems like Skyranger have RSC-10 certification. Very few. In fact, I can't think of, well, maybe Dragonfly. I don't know if Dragonfly did. I'm not sure. Yeah, Dragonfly's another big manufacturer. Ariane Labs are probably, I don't know if they're bigger than Dragonfly, but they're Canadian companies and they're really drone dominating with this part of the drone market, which is kind of military, journalism, EMS kind of area. Ariane Labs now are up to about 80 people in Kitchener-Waterloo. That's a big company for a drone. There's not that many like that size. So, you know, we have a very unique place in Canada. We've got this little window. The FAA are going to open up soon. Trust me, and Americans will be like all over it. And we'll be like following them again. So I really encourage everybody here, if they have an ability to sort of look into this technology, speak to your local drone operator, speak to us, speak to some of the people you've met tonight. But encourage your organizations to get this technology on board. Again, you guys have the expertise to understand some of the technical restrictions that go on. Yes, transporters can be difficult. Yes, there are rules, and yes, there are complex regulations, but there are also now a lot of service providers like ourselves who can help you manage that. So I could show you lots of other things, I guess, but maybe I'll do this. I'll go to the questions first, and I'll throw up pictures from the Sky Ranger again. Yes.
Actually, one note around the FAA.
Yes.
FAA in June, they started the motion to limit the possibilities of FPV flying,
Yes,
all
that's
kinds
right.
of things, and then shut it down completely because they do not want this technology in the air.
Yes.
They get sued.
You're absolutely right. The FAA are their own body, but on the other hand, you are right. They've also sort of like given a window, Section 333 of the FAA regulation, which means that maybe experimental UAVs might be allowed. They've got so much pressure on them. The lobby groups are really trying to put them alive. So there's a slight crack in that window. But you're right. As far as FPV work goes, they seem to be very unhappy about that. I don't know quite why. Rules are generally the same, and Transport Canada have made it very clear they're going to align with the FAA. It will happen. It is when you fly airplanes, when you fly across the border, the rules are pretty much the same. They're going to do that with UAV technology. So, we're waiting for Big Brother to make some decisions, and then once they do, Transport Canada will start to align their rules. So, I can take questions. Say, I hope
Based on those hydroline examples that you had, your flight path repeatability must not be good.
Yes. I don't know if it's because, I don't know if this is because, again, this is all military grade equipment, so it's really fairly high end. GPS on it is extremely high end. So the accuracy is actually, I'll be honest with you, we fly a grid pattern. That's a simple gridding system. I can actually show it to you here, how we would do it.
GPS locked, I guess.
I'm sorry?
GPS locked?
GPS, it's all GPS guided, that's right. So a grid system, simply we draw around a building, like if we're, they start off here, like at Stonehenge, which is some reason why they decide to start it. But if I clear, or even if I even go to some possible paths we've already done, you can see the map. It's just either, basically it's Bing Maps or it's Google Maps. It's one of the two. But if we go to, we have a grid that we did. Yeah, let's be nasty and grid Pearson. So if I go to Pearson Airport, and you can basically see it laid out there, we can go into high resolution, of course. If I go to auto grid and do a grid system, I basically draw around it. This is how we create our three-dimensional model for news. I go draw around it, so I just wanted to grid that part of it. I'll go, essentially that's essentially it. We'll go into, the grid's too large, of course, which is probably true. Pretty big, although I should be able to handle that. Too large. I believe that that's too large. Let's try it again. Auto grid. I don't know what the problem is. So there, let's try it again with a bit more reasonable resolution. So doing an auto grid again, this is exactly how we would see if you wanted to do a model, like a three-dimensional model. And three-dimensional models can be quite accurate. And what you saw there was forestry, which is actually a very complex model because of the various kinds of trees. But if you notice in the video, there was actually points on the highest points of all the trees. So all the trees could actually be measured right down to accuracy. It still thinks there's some overlap over here, but so let's just keep it happy and I'll do the grid here and go through it all. Yeah, exactly. So it's essentially you go there,